I've been waiting for this day for a while, and this morning I'm out here at the farm waiting on the delivery of a used hopper bottom grain bin that'll help store and hold the feed on our farm. It is going to be a game changer. I'll give you a breakdown of the cost and all that at the end of the video if you're interested. Now let me say from the beginning that when I talk about a grain bin in the rest of this video, I'm talking about a hopper bottom grain bin. Very different from a grain bin that row crop farmers use. They usually have flat bottoms with sweep augers on the bottom, and they're only emptying them out once or twice a year. This hopper bottom grain bin will be filled several times a year and emptied several times a year. I'll show you a little bit more about it once they get here with it. But it has taken me years to figure out how to do this. For most people raising pastured pigs, the single greatest expense is feed. And handling all that feed is one of the two most labor-intensive elements of pastured pigs. I purchased a used hopper bottom grain bin. New ones can be upwards of $15,000. And you can find used hopper bottom grain bins for anywhere from $500 up to $2,000 or $3,000 in my area. I needed one that would hold at least 6 tons or so, but with the option of holding up to 10 or 15 tons, depending on how much pig feed I have. There were 2 or 3 challenges with dealing with these hopper bottom grain bins. One, most of the ones that I've looked at are roughly 9.5 feet in diameter. That is pretty wide, and in fact, to haul them down the road, you're supposed to have a wide load permit in Mississippi. Secondly, they're also long, and I was fairly certain that I could get one down without having to disassemble it and then assemble it on the farm. That would have been a lot of work too. So I called this guy, Ty Jenkins. He deals in used hopper bottom grain bins, and I paid a little bit more than what I was anticipating for the grain bin and the delivery, but it has turned out to be well worth it. So the first thing is I was trying to figure out what size concrete pad I needed. 12 by 12 is what somebody told me, and they told me that I could use that they've used 4-inch concrete pads and used pilings where the feet were coming down. When I contacted this guy, he said I could use a 6-inch pad, and that's pretty standard. That's what the companies recommend for them. I ended up framing an 8-inch pad and actually got about 9.5 inches out of it because of the way I dug the dirt around and used nearly 5 yards of concrete. If I had it to do over again, I'd probably just do a 10-inch pad, because in my area, if you have less than 5 yards of concrete delivered, there's a delivery charge that is about the equivalent of another yard of concrete. The other thing I was trying to figure out is how to get the grain bin to me. Of course, I've got neighbors with 30-foot trailers and could haul it, but again, trying to get the wide load permit and all that. When Ty told me that the delivery of the grain bin and setting it up was $1,200, at first I thought that was a little high, and the more I thought about it, it was well worth it. If I had the trailer, the equipment, and everything else to go get it for the 150 miles and bring it back to the farm, it may not be that big of a deal. But I didn't want to spend 2 days in borrowed equipment and then have to go rent a telehandler to set it up. Figure that $1,200 was very, very cheap. They're going to be here in a few minutes to deliver and set up and anchor the grain bin to this concrete pad. I didn't get a whole lot of video of pouring the pad. Frankly, Bubba and his dad helped me. They had experience with concrete, a lot of experience in concrete, and to be honest with you, I did not realize how big of a deal it would be to frame up the pad, and it was a little more labor intensive than I thought, and I did not get a whole lot of video. Frankly, I was afraid that Bubba and his dad would rebel if I started filming a whole lot, but many thanks to the 2 of them, Bubba and Donnie, for helping me get this pad poured. First thing I did is I scraped it off, then we framed it with 2x8. We got the pad level, and then we put the rebar in it, spaced 2 feet apart, starting about a foot from the edge of the frame. We had a lot of rain from Hurricane Helene while we were actually finishing this off, so we didn't get the best of finishes on it. But to be honest with you, all I wanted was a broom finish, and it's perfect for what I'm needing it to do. Then we covered the pad up for a week, and today, here we are. Yesterday afternoon, I came through and basically just backfilled dirt along the edge of the pad here. Now it's just a matter of waiting on them to show up. The grain bin is here and set up, and they were actually done by 11 o'clock or so. It only took them about 2.5 hours. I had them put a bucket gate on it high enough so that I can set my hopper bottom pallet bins underneath it and carry it to the pigs. The last 1.5 tons or 2 tons of feed are going to be pretty tough to get out though, because that slide gate at the bottom is only about 10 to 14 inches off the ground. I've got to get some parts for an auger to set it up, so it'll be nice when I finally get the auger set up on it. It also has a spring-loaded top, so I can pull a cable on the side. The top opens up and shuts, and I don't have to climb up there. Those little devils can be a couple $100 or more to add on as well. I think the thing that's the most important, the 2 people that came over here to deliver it, man, they were very professional, very young, but very professional. They knew what they were doing and did it very, very well. So how much did it cost to set up the grain bin? The grain bin itself was $1,500, and then there was $1,200 for delivery and setup. That $1,500 included the slide gate, the spring-loaded top, and they did some work to the top of the grain bin and other things to make sure it has a good life on it. So $2,700 for the delivery and setup. Now, I've got $900 in just the concrete itself, and then about $300 in the lumber, the rebar, the tie wire, and then 4 meals for Mr. Donnie and Bubba. I figure if they're going to come out here 2 separate days, the least I can do is buy their lunch. So $2,700 for the bin, $900 for the concrete, $300, that's $3,900 total to have the grain bin set up, erected, foundation poured, and everything else. Now, I could have saved a little bit of money doing a few things differently. If I'd purchased a grain bin for $500, I could have saved $500, maybe a little bit more with these options that I had added to this one if I'd done it myself. But that would have taken another 3 or 4 hours worth of work for somebody that doesn't know what they're doing. Also, I could have gone and picked the bin up and had it delivered and erected it myself. But that $1,200 was probably the best $1,200 of the whole deal. Borrowing a gooseneck trailer to do that and driving 150 miles to do it, and then renting a telehandler to help set it up. It's just too many options for things to go wrong. They have the equipment to do it. They did it well, they did it right, and they knew what they were doing. I could have saved $200 or $300 on concrete if I just poured a 6-inch slab. It would have saved a little bit on lumber as well. I realized afterwards that I had some pine 2x10s that I'd cut. I could have used those and probably should have. It would have saved me a couple $100, but that's just all part of the game. Other than setting up more infrastructure for our fencing, for our pastured pigs, that $3,900 is probably the best money that I've spent. Each month I go through 3 to 6 tons of feed for my pigs. I go pick it up in these super sacks. By the time I get to the farm, hook up the trailer, go to the co-op, they load it in my special crates for me, I bring it back, and by the time I put whatever I'm not feeding immediately in my hopper bottom bins, I've easily got 3 hours committed to those 2 tons of feed. The first couple times, all I'll have to do is meet the truck out here, spend an hour for the 6 tons, 8 tons, or even 12 or 14 tons, or whatever amount of feed that I use. Depending on how much feed I use, this thing will save labor costs in 3 years. Most importantly, it's the wear and the tear on the vehicles, on the trailers. Even though I've got them, it still puts some strain on that equipment, and this is going to be so much easier.